Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia and today it is time for the July TBR. It's been time for the July TBR through the last 3 takes where I've tried to start this video and somehow torpedoed myself repeatedly. 4th time's a charm, we shall hope. It's almost July. We have a week left of June. I'm still reading my June TBR. I'm not going to finish it. A couple of these books are rolling into July and I will talk about them momentarily. But let's just start with the big event, the big booktube event that occurs every year in July, which is Jane Austen July. And I love this one. I like to read a Jane Austen book a couple times a year. They're on perpetual reread, and I'm so excited about the group read choice. But first, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Jane Austen July is a booktube event with 3 hosts: Claudia from Spinster's Library, Katie from Books and Things, and Marissa from Blatantly Bookish. I will link their channels below. You can go if you want to watch more about this year's announcements and prompts and ideas. I usually just sort of come in and do a couple of the prompts. I don't go all in and do everything because, like I said, I sort of read Jane off and on whenever, and there's just a lot of other groups and reading things going on. But I love this event, and I am going to do the group read this year, which is Emma. And I was so excited when Emma was selected. This was the one I wanted to read next, so I was really hoping it would come up for me like that. And it did. The cosmos, the booktube cosmos manifested. And then I just recently treated myself to this copy to add to my gradually growing set of cloth-bound editions of Austen novels. So I will be reading this with the group. If you go to any of those announcements, you can access the Discord if you also want to read along, or you want to, there's sections for the different topics and categories and prompts, and there's been lots of chatter and discussion going on. And so, but I'm really excited to follow the schedule and read Emma and talk about it with everyone. I think I've read it. I really don't know how many times I've read it. I'm going to guess maybe this will be my 5th. That's my best guess. I don't know. I didn't really keep track, but I have read it a few times over the decades. And it is the story of Emma Woodhouse, a young, wealthy, content young woman who does like to meddle and matchmake amongst her friends, and with unintended consequences. She's both, to me, she's both appealing and aggravating. And also, this book is 450 pages long. So this officially is my first big book summer selection. I didn't make it in June at all, but this one counts as big book summer and also for Jane Austen July. So yay. And then I'm also going to read a nonfiction book, and that's one of the prompt categories. And I'm going to read, and possibly 2, but one of them, I'll get to it in a second. I don't think it's going to come in time. But I'm going to read Austen Years, a memoir in 5 novels. So I guess we'll find out which novel didn't make the cut. But this is by Rachel Cohen. And this is about Cohen reading and being restored and enlightened through a difficult time in her life by reading the Jane Austen novels. It says, in the turbulent period around the birth of her first child and the death of her father, Rachel Cohen turned to Jane Austen to make sense of her new reality. For Cohen, simultaneously grief-stricken by the death and buoyed by the birth, reading Austen became a refuge and a ballast. Through Austen's work, she reckoned with difficult questions about mourning, memorializing, living in a household, attending to the world, writing, and imagining. So I have been wanting to read this ever since Hannah talked about it on her channel, Hannah's Books, and I've just been saving it especially for Jane Austen July. This is the little bookmark that came out of it. I got it, I think I did get this one on Thrift Books, and a bookmark from a shop called Mrs. Dalloway's in Berkeley, California, fell out of it, and I would love to visit this shop. I also have requested another nonfiction book called Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney, and this is a very popular selection this year. A lot of people in the Discord were talking about reading this, and there is a long line. It's a pretty new release. It's a book about the other women authors of Jane Austen's era, who she may have been reading that might have not necessarily, well, possibly influenced her work, but what was she reading? And so I guess authors, contemporaries, or maybe slight predecessors in time. I don't know exactly, but it looks really good. And I did request it on Libby, and I'm in a long line. So whenever it comes up, I do want to read it, but it might not hit during July. So that is the big July event that I want to participate in for BookTube, but I have a lot of ongoing year-long events or seasonal events that I want to talk about as well. The next one is Big Book Summer. And like I said, I'm going to do Emma. I struck out in June, but I want to circle back around. I want to read, my goal here is to read 3. It was supposed to be June, July, and August, but now I got to double up in either July or August if I'm going to make my goal. If I only read 2, what's going to happen? Absolutely nothing. But I do have one rollover book. I also didn't get to June on the Range, so I may read Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. My daughter gave me this for Mother's Day, and I've been looking forward to reading it. And if I had made it in June, it would have been historical fiction, Big Book Summer, and June on the Range. But it's not happening with what I'm still trying to read this week. This is not going to be occurring. So I'm going to relocate it hopefully for July, and it will still be Big Book Summer. And it is a story about an indigenous vampire who I think is moving through the centuries trying to mete out justice for atrocities that have occurred. I have another one that would be Big Book Summer and also one of the rereads. I'm trying to do 2 rereads a month as part of my 60 Before 60 project. So it might be this, or it might be something shorter that I will select and surprise you with later. But possibly Cloud Cuckoo Land. This is one that I've been especially eager to get to, but I just have this feeling that I'm not going to read 3 over 400-page books in July. So I'm mentioning it, but don't be surprised if you see it reoccur in August. Sometimes it's hard to predict. There's the size of the book, but the speed of the book is a whole different thing. Sometimes a really short book takes forever. Sometimes a long book is just like a runaway horse. So that part is kind of a question mark. And I should mention that Big Book Summer is hosted by Melinda from A Web of Stories and Sue Jackson. And I really am participating this month. The Reading the Globe Project, which is hosted by Katya, Page Turners with Katya, and Roz from Scallydandling About the Books, is also ongoing all year. We are halfway through, and this month is a book called Standing Heavy. It's a short novel by an author who's, I'm not sure if this is pronounced GauZ. It was written in French, translated by Frank Wynne, who was the translator of the book I read recently, Dear Dickhead. This writer is from the Ivory Coast. I've requested it on Libby, and it's supposed to come in around July 7th, so I should be able to jump in and read because it's under 200 pages. And it is about security guards that work at a museum, and maybe more than one location. I think it said it's about 3 security guards that are African immigrants in Paris, and how they see everything, observe everything, but they're sort of invisible. They're in their jobs, and people just mill around them, and everything's going on around them, and they are capturing it all, their observations and experiences. So I don't really know what the tone is. I don't know if it's serious or funny or both, or I really have not explored this much at all except to request it. So I'm just looking forward to getting to it. The discussion is always lively and thoughtful in that Discord. In my project Endless Drama, where we read contemporary 20th and 21st century plays, we are reading 2 plays this month. And the first one is a classic, which is in this old anthology I have from college, Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov. There is a slight possibility that this is a reread, but I just don't know. I don't remember. I feel like surely I read it, and I have this anthology of famous plays, and I know I got this for a class and we read from it, and I remember some of them and not others, but maybe we didn't read them all. I don't know. So let's just call it that it's not a reread. I'm not counting it as a reread because I don't know. I know it's a family saga. It's Russian, translated by Constance Garnett, and written in a year that I did not take note of. But I will tell you more about it when I start reading it. I know it's early 20th century. How about that? And then the other one is a contemporary play called Sweat by Lynn, Nottage. I don't think that this book has anything to do with summertime. I think sweat refers to blue-collar workers in a factory. But I placed it in July because it's sweaty. It's July. It's hot. So I just stuck it there. I like this cover. Looks like somebody has stopped at a bar after work because you have the work coffee thermos, but the beer in the foreground. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's published in 2017, so I guess it won in 2017 or 2018. She's won the Pulitzer Prize twice for Sweat and another play called Ruined. And this play takes place in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's about a group of down-and-out factory workers who struggle to keep their present lives in balance, ignorant of the financial devastation looming in their near future. It's based on her extensive research and interviews with residents of Reading. Sweat is a topical reflection of the present and poignant outcome of America's economic decline. So I guess not a barrel of laughs, but it sounds like it could be a really powerful story. And I've had pretty good luck with the Pulitzer winners. I think I'm going to keep that firmly in mind when I select plays for next year. This one's coming up second in the month, but looking forward to that. They're both pretty short. The Cherry Orchard looks really short, except that my book has super tiny font that was okay in the 80s, but it's not okay now. This one is a little more doable. I guess I could always pick up the Cherry Orchard online and blow it up if I can't handle my old book. And then in science fiction double feature, the science fiction speculative wing of my 60 Before 60 project, there are 2 books for this month. The first one is a short. I thought it was more like a novella, but I think it's just a short novel. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Phillip K. Dick. I have wanted to read this for decades. I have no real explanation about why I haven't, because I've loved the movie Blade Runner since the 80s, and I've always known that this was the source material, and I have never read it. And I actually never read anything by Philip K. Dick at all until last year, even though numerous movies I knew came from his fiction, and I always meant to read it, and now I'm finally reading it. So here it is, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Very excited about this. If you take a shot of water every time I say very excited, you will be fully hydrated for the entire day. Then the second one, let's see. Oh, I don't have it yet. I'm going to borrow it online, is All the Water in the World by Eiren Caffall. This is a fairly new release about a near future climate fiction. The floods have ruined the world, I guess, or at least America, and there's a group of people, a family that is living on the roof of the Natural History Museum in New York City and surviving. Looking forward to that as well. Yes, indeed, I'm excited. We'll have more to describe about it when I actually have procured it and am embarking upon reading it. There are a couple of buddy reads. One of them is a rollover. My friend Michael and I were going to read The New Life by Tom Crewe as part of Pride reading for June. It's not going to fit in, so we have rolled it over into July, but we're still going to read it. And it's historical fiction. It takes place, it's kind of interesting because it starts out and takes place in exactly the time frame of The Master, which I'm reading right now by Colin Toybean, and some of the same elements are coming into play. There's a whole part in that book about Oscar Wilde's trial, and that comes up in this book as well. So I will talk more about it when I begin it. Also, we're going to resume our very relaxed-paced readathon of Kate DiCamillo's works in publication order. She is a children's author that we both love. I've mentioned 200,000 times that we are both former children's librarians. So sometimes we just have to circle back and read our favorite middle grade authors. And so this month will be the Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. And I will also be getting that on Cloud Library or Libby. And my library does have a physical copy, but here's the thing. Some of these older children's books, this isn't super old, but if it's more than just a couple years old, especially if it's a beloved, famous, favorite kind of book, those library copies sometimes are kind of sketchy. They come out, they're discolored, they're wavy, they've got splotches. I mean, a lot of things have happened, and sometimes they're just kind of gross. So when it was my own library, I felt like I was sort of familiar with the source of the grossness and I could still read them. But the public library, some copy that's been read 200 times by every kid in town, I think I'll just read the nice, pristine iPad version and I can look at the illustrations, and I think we're just going to do that. And for nonfiction, I always read at least one nonfiction book every month. So the Memoir by Rachel Cohen about Jane Austen and her reading of the novels is my official entry, but I do have an unofficial second entry if I can get to it. I really want to read H is for Hawk by Helen MacDonald, which is also a memoir that was a gift from my friend Michael that I've been trying to fit in because it just sounds really appealing to me, and it's got these short chapters that I think would work really well to read one a day, and I just trying to find the right starting point. Last but certainly not least, a book that I would like to fit in July if possible. A couple other people on BookTube read it and enjoyed it, and then it came up again because I've been watching the really wonderful new series by my friend Joe O'Malley, aka the glamorous Too Tight Lautrec, doing a series about Pulitzer, starting from the very beginning of the Pulitzer Prize and reading the ones that are more unknown, obscure, never heard of them. It's called Pulitzer Who, and right now the series is on a little break, but one of the upcoming ones in the near future is Now in November by Josephine Johnson, and I actually have a copy. I haven't read a single one of the books that have been in the series yet, although some of them I now do want to read, and others I know that I don't want to read because it's a reading adventure for sure. And some of the books have held up really well, and some of them are definitely a product of their time. And this is a great series that you should watch. It's so interesting to see what other really well-known contenders come up in every single year, and then what was chosen. Sometimes it's just baffling. But I've heard really good things about Now in November, enough that I bought a copy with no particular plan of when to read it. But it seems like this would be really timely because then for at least once, I would actually have my own thoughts that I could respond with the book at hand. So I am hoping that I can read this before it gets to Too Tight Lautrec's review. I have this strong feeling that I'm forgetting something. And as I was talking, like an idea came up in the back of my mind, and I thought, it was one of those things where you think, oh, wait a minute, there's this thing I need to mention. There's something I need to talk about, someone I need to acknowledge, something I'm forgetting. But I couldn't stop talking and just sit and stare into space and try to dredge it up. So I don't know, but there is something. I'm forgetting something. Okay, I know what it is. I was going to review my Storygraph challenges. So currently I'm reading The Master, which is covering Reading Shame Forgiveness Month in Ben Reads Good Challenge. And it's also covering Melinda's challenge in Web of Stories Storygraph challenge of a book with a historical figure. The July official slot for Ben's challenge is a book in translation, which technically I pretty much do every month because I'm doing Reading the Globe and other books that I've chosen. I think so. Standing Heavy would count. I don't know if I have another. I think that's maybe the only translated book currently on my list, but the space on the Storygraph is already filled because I read some extra ones along the way. So I think I'm covered. And I got a little bit of that rogue feeling, like I might rearrange something that I've outlined here. I don't know. We'll see. Every month I look ahead and I think, okay, just don't overschedule. Leave some more open space for just mood reading. And I try and I fail and I join the projects and I invent projects and I talk about this every month and then I just do it again. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, that is my lineup, subject to change. I am pretty delighted with it, but I just also, like I said, I have so many other books I would also like to get to. Maybe I will leave some space in August. Hope springs eternal. Let me know what you think about my July TBR, things you are excited, upcoming that you also want to read. Please stop saying excited, Angelia. Please stop. But I am. I just am. I'm enthusiastic. I'm anticipatory. I'm jazzed. I'm psyched. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.